Hello, and welcome everyone to our bite-sized webinar. Here's our webinar today. We're live from the AZ Stadium here in the Netherlands. By way of introduction, my name is Mark Andrews. I'm a Global Sales Manager at Mobile Viewpoint. And I'd like to welcome my very special guest today, Patrick from Buck Design. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. My name is Patrick Steen for den Dag. I'm Sales Manager at Buck Design. And I'm very happy to be here today.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Just so everybody knows, everybody's on mute, so feel free to make as much noise as you like. We'll also be doing a Q&A session at the end, so if you do have questions, feel free just to write them in the Q&A box at the end and we'll address them. The idea is I'm literally just going to speak for 10 minutes, a little bit about AI, a bit about us, a bit about what AZ have done, and in terms of this sort of studio build that we have here today. So, I mean, first of all, AZ, Patrick, you're a local man from the Netherlands. Who are AZ?
Well, AZ is a sub-team in the Dutch league, really. They're famous for their academy, their training academy. They produce a lot of good young players. They play very attractive football, very attacking, if that's the right English word for it. And it's very nice to watch their games.
Yeah. Oh, sure. And they're quite a well-known brand. They're probably one of the top 3 football clubs in the Netherlands.
They are. They played, many years UEFA Cup football, also this year. And, they play very attractive football and they do it very well in the league. So,
yeah. And here we are. I mean, what a fabulous outlook. So here we are. We have the studio actually physically overlooking the pitch, the big window here and everything. I mean, it's an awesome view.
It's just to play football
itching,
now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it stopped raining as well, which is nice.
Yeah, but, that was really Dutch weather today.
Yeah. So I think what I'd like to talk about next, for those of you who don't know Mobile Viewpoint, let me just introduce you a little bit and give you a very quick high-level overview who Mobile Viewpoint are. So Mobile Viewpoint are a Dutch technology company actually based here in Alkmaar as well. And for the last 10 years, they've been supplying to global broadcasters technology that allows people to live stream. So when they first started out 10 years ago, the live streaming, it was for outdoor type broadcast. And back then people would, use satellites for their live stream. But they invented a way by which instead of using satellite to live stream, in fact, we could use the cellular network. So back then it was 3G. Obviously, video requires a lot of bandwidth. So what they enabled was the ability of what we call bonding together multiple cellular networks for that extra bandwidth, but also reliability. And basically, you could tie up different cellular carriers. That carried on to 4G, and now obviously we have 5G, and people have 4K workflows. And in fact, it has evolved immensely in the last 10 years. So a lot of people are now doing sort of their remote productions actually through the encoded technology. So there's two-way streaming, hotspots, video return, that kind of stuff. So the whole thing has evolved immensely. But also, in the last couple of years, we've had the advent of what we call artificial intelligence or AI. So Mobile Viewpoint have actually developed a couple of AI platforms, one of which is vPilot, which is what we're showing here with a multi-camera production, all being run by AI. And we also have a second platform that we call the IQ Sports Production Platform, or IQ-SP, which is all about creating sports production. And what both these AI technologies have in common is that you don't need camera people. You don't need an on-site director. So the AI, in fact, is taking the place of those people, which enables companies such as AZ to start creating much lower cost productions or sports productions that in the past were just too cost prohibitive. So for sports productions, we're doing a whole range of sports. Football is one of them. But typically sort of the youth training games or the women's sports, which in the past wouldn't have the luxury of being able to send a camera crew to site. By using AI, they can now start creating those professional productions at a much lower cost. And the same thing with this studio here. So tell me a bit about Buck. I've said enough about Mobile Viewpoint.
Yeah. Well, we are a stand building company. We design stands, we produce stands, we realize stands, we build them. We do that in the high-end market, up till 300 square meters. We build the stands ourselves in Europe, and outside Europe we realize the stands with our OSPI partners.
Okay.
We made a nice film, so we can show it maybe.
I'm going to share my screen and share the sound too, and I will play. It's a bit of a promo, but here we go. It's a good promo. Share this. So, yeah, so I mean, exhibitions, pandemic. It's been a while since we've done exhibitions. So here we are in AZ building studios. So what's happened?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it stopped the events. Well, it's almost a year ago now. My last project was in Oslo, I believe, and then well, it stopped really. And then, of course, we had to think about what shall we do now, because there were no events left. And well, we were all working with you guys,
sure.
Mobile Viewpoints, and a lot of our clients were now, setting up meetings, webinars, Zoom meetings, etc. To get in contact with their clients. So we thought it was a good idea to assist them with this and build real good studios so they could professionally present themselves. And that's what we started to do, and we do that very successfully, and it's very nice working with.
Well, thank you. And I guess your traditional customer base is sort of many of the corporates who, in the past,
yes,
they're doing a lot of their marketing through exhibitions. They can't no longer do that. So multimedia, video, a lot of Zoom, but people using webcams, not giving the professional interface of the company they want to give.
Exactly.
So now they can use studios and doing professional productions like this.
And keep it simple, because that's what the vPilot does, right?
Yeah.
It keeps it simple to use. And well, we have a lot of confidence in it that it's, for a lot of companies, it will be the future to work like this. And of course, they also need a professional studio then, and think about, what kind of sets do you need in what kind of situations, and we help them realizing this.
Okay, and here we are in AZ now. So obviously, this is sort of a bit left field, I guess. Excuse the pun of what you've done with your traditional environment. So tell me, how did you end up working for AZ?
Well, we had a webinar with the local businesses, and AZ was one of the. They joined this webinar. And after the webinar, I thought it would be a good idea to give them a phone call to see if they were interested. And well, actually, they were already busy thinking about how to engage their fans, because of course there are no fans allowed in the stadium. So they thought about a live stream on YouTube to engage their fans, and well, it worked out very well. And within 1 or 2 weeks, they will have their first live broadcasting. And which is also very nice that it was a good idea of you guys that there was an app and we can live stream it through the vPilot. For example, when the bus arrives with the players, or when they are training on the pitch.
Oh, okay. Maybe we could show that, Patrick. Maybe if you switch it on.
Yeah, we can.
So I guess what the idea behind AZ, they have the studio, they want to do the pre-match analysis, post-match analysis, and obviously the big topic that everyone's talking about at the moment is fan engagement. People can't come to the stadium anymore, so they need to communicate in a way that they can still engage. So that's the idea behind the studio. And as Patrick mentioned, and probably what we can do in a minute, we can actually do a live stream using the app.
We can, yeah.
And then we can sort of show behind the scenes. So there's a little device here which I can show. So this is called vPanel. So there we talked about AI. One thing you can do is manually do the cameras yourself and using this device, but you can also add graphics, overlays, video inserts. But what I'm going to do here, I'm going to switch to the live stream.
There we are, Mark.
Go. Yeah. So this is all being done through a mobile phone, which is obviously a great low-cost way of being able to live stream. What we're showing here in the studio is behind the scenes. So we have the AI server here. So this is obviously taking the job of the camera people, the director, and it's deciding all the shots. We actually have a 5-camera production system. Here we're using Panasonic cameras, but actually we can support a range of different PTZ cameras. And what you see on top of the camera there is a 3D scanner. So some of the cameras have 3D scanners, and the idea being the scanner can basically determine who is where. So if we move around in our chairs, the cameras can still sort of focus on us. We have the screens in front. So this is what I'm seeing, so I can see the live stream as well. And then Buck are actually responsible for the whole stand setup. So they've got the lights, the carpet. You can actually move the camera. So you can have this screen behind you if you wanted to show something else. You could have a standing up type of presentation. And behind me here, we have obviously the football pitch. So what I'm going to do now is go back to the AI and let that decide. Patrick, that was great.
Thank you, Mark.
That works really well. So obviously with the phone these days, especially the iPhone, they have such professional cameras on them these days. You know, they work very well for the live stream, and many of our news customers actually are using iPhones instead of cameras. And obviously you don't need a separate encoder; it just live streams direct from that. But they use that here, like you say, when they get off the bus, they can have the stream coming straight to the studio.
And we think it's also a very good item when there are events again that for customers to show their stands, maybe do some interviews and whatever.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, no, it's great. I think I've told you more or less from a high level everything there is, what AZ are doing here and what they hope to achieve going forward. So I would invite any questions now. If people have questions, just write them in the Q&A box and we'll address them in a minute. And while you're doing that, just one last question for you, Patrick. So obviously you built the studio for them. Were there any sort of challenges that you faced when building a studio of this magnitude?
Yeah. The biggest challenge was the lighting, of course, because the games are in the morning, the afternoon, or in the evening. So that's the sun has a big influence on this studio.
There's a big window here with a lot of light coming
but
in,
of course you want to see the pitch because that's where it's all about, right? So we really wanted to show the pitch. But we managed, and I think we had a good solution, and AZ is very happy with it. And well, we're also happy when the client is happy.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people are interested, if you have projects or if you have questions that you want to ask, not now, but later, and come back and talk to us, if something comes to mind at a later date, then obviously get in touch. Our email is sales, SALES, @mobileviewpoint.com. I should also just add that the AI technology that we have, we've also spun off into a separate brand called IQ Video Solutions, so that we have 2 separate websites now, one for the traditional encoder business, but then a second website, iqvideosolutions.com, which is really for our AI type platforms, because we just expect that to grow, and there's a sort of slightly different proposition for both, so we've decided to keep them apart. So on that, I'm going to go to the questions that we have here. My goodness, my eyesight is pretty bad. Yes. So first question, what sort of cameras can we use? Well, actually, yeah, they're just PTZ cameras. They're off-the-shelf cameras. So if you've got your own cameras, we can use those as long as there's something called FISCA compliant. It's a standard for PTZ cameras. So we have the Panasonic ones. We also resell the Avonic cameras, which is a much lower cost, which is fabulous for web streaming or for those people on a budget. They're very good quality cameras for the price. And again, Buck can provide everything from the camera to the stand to the lighting, Mark, to the audio, as well as being our partner for the implementation of the AI side.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Another question, actually, how many cameras can you have? Well, actually, it used to be we limited to 5-6 cameras because they're all what we call SDI cameras, and we had a limit on the SDI inputs into the server. But we've had a redesign now, and in fact, we've put in a switch, an SDI switch. So there's almost no limit on the number of cameras we can have. So again, if you're looking at big studios, lots of cameras, we can also cater for that. How does the AI work? Is it based on the audio? Yes, partially. So there's a couple of things the AI is using. It obviously knows who's talking because of the audio. There's a second thing as well. The scanners will obviously determine where we are, so they can move the picture, the camera accordingly. But something else that we also have inbuilt within the AI platform, we have a very easy to use GUI, graphical user interface, for people who want to use this. And you can set up different things in there, one of which is something we call like a virtual director, if you like. So every director has his own preference in terms of how he wants to create a production. So if you have particular settings that you want to say, so I want to have a shot for 15 seconds, then again, you pick a range and the AI will basically decide how long each shot's going to be, but they're based on your particular preferences. So again, the virtual director, though the AI decides all the shots and how it's going to move around between the different cameras, actually during the setup, you can basically influence that as well. And I think that's it in terms of questions. So on that note, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today on our webinar. Like I say, got any questions, feel free to follow up later, sales@mobileviewpoint.com. I'd like to thank my esteemed special guest, Patrick, for joining us today.
Thank you, Mark. You're very welcome. It was nice being here, so I enjoyed it.
Great. Yep, it's been fun. And for everybody else, we'll see you again. Keep an eye on our website. We're doing webinars all the time. We're going to have another one at some point, which goes a bit more deep and dirty into the technology and the graphical user interface. If you're interested in seeing that as well, or indeed on our other technology platforms, you're very welcome to join. And on that note, I'd like to say goodbye to everybody and please stay safe.
Bye-bye. Bye.